Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Okay, I was not there when this took place, and when I was told there were some disagreements on what happened, but nevertheless we had a solid story. The cast of the show: cousin's friend. He had several friends, but they were all chuckling or dying of laughter, so they didn't speak. The driver and 3 passengers. Okay, before we start, the background. My cousin is no wimp. For kids who like wrestling, reading this, he could take John Cena. Famous wrestlers for those who don't know. This is a little background, but it sends us into the story. So my cousin, his younger brother, and my grandpa live in a rich neighborhood. 6 mansions, 3 on each side. So the old couple who lived there and the animal lover started complaining that litter shows up in their yard. They live the closest to the street. The first house on each side, cousin lives next to the animal lover in the middle. And that's when they noticed trash in their yard, not as much, but some. My cousin was fed up and decided to wait out in a little grass patch by the street and wait. Sure enough, the next day they show up and throw trash from a popular fast food place on the ground. One threw a large soda. My cousin has crazy fast reflexes and he snagged the soda. They started to drive off when my cousin friends started throwing trash. My cousin chucked the soda. Bullseye. The soda was half full, so it splattered all over the car, and due to the thickness, they got covered in the trash cousin's friends were throwing. The driver and passenger 2 are girls, and the others are boys. What the heck? The driver says. Sorry, I just got fed up by your trash. You know not to throw your kids, right? My cousin tells her. The joke is he's calling them trash. Cousin's friends start giggling and laughing from there. We didn't do anything wrong. I'm suing you for assault. Ma'am, I can't let you throw trash here, or anywhere for that matter. Small kids live here, and my dogs too. Those are your dogs? Yes, why? They scare my friend. The dogs are a German Shepherd and Husky, but he calls it a wolf. They are very obedient and never leave the yard, and when they do, it is easier to help people or playing with the kids, and the not so rare exception of the animal lover inviting them over for a treat, a little doggy obstacle course, and watching them on rare occasions of watching them. The old couple is now watching from their porch, and we later found out that the animal lover was watching from a window. Cousin says, "So? I don't care. This is my property, so I can own however many dogs." The driver performs to smack my cousin and scream, "You jerk! Don't you care about the community?" What happens next makes the driver and all the passengers' mouths drop to the floor and go wide-eyed. Cousin's friends and the old couple are now dying of laughter. My cousin holds his police badge and announces, "OP, leader of a SWAT team. And now feel free to get out of the car and put your hands behind your back." Cousin's friends were his teammates. Passenger 3 and 2 didn't fight it. Passenger 1 got out of the car and started running. Cousin calls his dogs and yells, "Get him!" They chased after him in a flash. My cousin's friend says, "I think we have all been wondering this, but how old are you guys?" Passenger 1 screams because one of the dogs just bit him and is now dragging him back to the cousin friend. Passenger 3 finally broke into tears from pressure. "We're all 14 to 15. The driver says, "Shut up! Don't listen to him! I'm 16. She handed cousin her license, who was trying to pull her out of the car. "Do you want me to actually read this?" My cousin asks. "Yes, it will." She tried to keep going, but cousin was still pulling her out. Whoa, man, just... My cousin friend and the rest of my cousin friends are looking at a man at least 30 whose driver license got renewed in 2018. It was 2018, so it was up to date and everything else was good. Cousin finally got her out in handcuffs, and they drove the 4 to the station to fill out the needed information. 3 months later in court, the punishments were as follows. Passengers 3 and 2 were charged with community service, nobody remembered how long, and $1,500 fines each. Passenger 1 was charged with a $2,000 fine and 2 to 3 years depending on behavior in prison for resisting arrest. The driver had a $5,000 fine, and the best part of all, she had to go to prison for 7 to 10 for resisting arrest, littering, assault, assaulting an officer, and harassment. She got the harassment because passenger 3 said she and passenger 1 had harassed him and passenger 2 into littering. Passenger 2 and 1 confirmed this, and passenger 1 apologized and said the driver had harassed him into helping her. Passenger 2 backed this up with, "I thought I heard you two arguing." Passenger 1 did not get harassment added on to his sentence. Instead, the judge put his harassment on the driver. The judge said those punishments were final, and like he said, passenger 1's could change. The driver started screaming and begging her dad to help. He was just doing that thing where you grab the bone between your eyes and shake your head. So 2 years later, my cousin found that passenger 1, 2, and 3 working at the fancy market they have next to the houses, so they don't have to leave the neighborhood during Corona, and they also put up a gate. The reason wasn't Corona, I forget, because both went up in 2019 before Corona existed. He asked how long the passenger 1 had been out of jail, and he answers him, "I actually had my sentence cut by a year and a half for good behavior." They gave him some wine and bread for free for what happened. The driver is still in jail and is being tortured because guess who works at the prison she got sent to? You guessed it. Cousin and his friends who stopped by her cell while they patrolled her cell block. She has started many fights which all were dispatched as her being the aggressor. Several years ago, I worked as a manager at a casino. Not a Las Vegas casino, much smaller. The state I live in allows casinos, but you can only have 20 machines. So really, we were a small business. Important later. One day a guy comes up and says he lost his wallet. Let's call him V, for victim. I help him look for it, but really I didn't have high hopes. 2 women then come up and turn in his wallet, both in their mid-20s. Let's call them entitled woman and friend of the entitled woman. They say they found a wallet near the bathrooms. V got his wallet back and ID, but it's missing $40. V asked if I could help find out who stole his money. Now we may be small, but even we have cameras. So I reviewed the tapes and saw that the entitled woman and friend of the entitled woman actually found a wallet near one of the machines, nowhere near the bathrooms. Then you see the entitled woman take the money out of the wallet and into the machine. At this point, I know we got him. I called the police. Now, this isn't an emergency, and it's a matter of over $40. The police take about half an hour to 45 minutes to get there, because the entitled woman and friend of hers are still there. I told the police that these women stole the money. So the police interview them. They say the same story, that they found a wallet near the bathrooms and they were just being 2 good citizens returning the wallet to V. The cop buys their story. He came back to me and said he thinks they are innocent. I guess 20-something-year-old girls always look innocent. I told the cop I have everything on camera and they stole the money. So I showed the footage to him and I think he was in shock. He asked if he could show the footage to the entitled woman. And I said yes. So I'm in the back office with the cop and the entitled woman. It gets to the part where she opens a wallet and pulls money out. The cop asks her, "If you didn't steal the money, then what is this?" "That is just my cell phone." That is clearly a trifold wallet. The entitled woman remains silent and the cop asks her to put her hands behind her back and arrests her. And she starts crying. Then the cop turns his attention to her friend. He questions her again and she repeats her original story. The cop then asks the friend of the entitled woman to put her hands behind her back and arrests her for interfering with an investigation. She starts crying as well. The cop then asks V if he's going to press charges and he says yes. So I made a CD of the video footage and hand it over to the cop. Moral of the story: just because you find someone else's wallet doesn't mean you are entitled to the money inside. Unfortunately, this story doesn't have a happy ending. About 6 to 8 months later, the cops come knocking on my door. They said they lost the CD I made them and they need another copy for trial. As I said, we are a small business and don't keep footage that old. I had nothing to give them. Without that footage, all charges were dropped, as it was V's word against the entitled woman and her friend. At least both women did see some jail time, even if it was short-lived. Hopefully that will be enough to scare them straight. I will start off by saying that this has happened before. I work in a drive-thru and this particular evening, a lady, loosely defined, ordered some fries. She came to the window and received her fries, only to find a drive-thru order taker. I was collecting that night, taking an order. She was somehow appalled at this, because she was trying to get her attention to let her know that her fries are salty. Things escalated very quickly as she was throwing French fries through the window, yelling "Hello! Hello!", taking the rest of her food and throwing it at us too. The manager, Dave, came to the window to see what was the matter. "These fries are too salty. I want a refund now." She was eating the fries and throwing the rest of them at us repeatedly. All I could do is stand there slack-jawed while this all happened. Dave said he wasn't giving her a refund. If she was pissed before, she was livid now. She lost her ever-loving mind, demanding a refund on food she threw all over the place. Seriously, it looked like Cookie Monster anytime he eats. Food just flying everywhere. Gallagher will be impressed. "I am not leaving till the cops come." The cops came alright. Dave knew the situation and he knew this always ends in a customer being trespassed at least, or leaving in handcuffs at most. So Dave not only welcomed the cops, but he encouraged it, almost begging her to call the cops. He even told her it is not going to go the way you think it's going to go. This was an at most day, as she held up the line for 20 minutes. The cops hauled her off faster than a June bug on a hamster wheel, or insert any other hellbilly saying that means super fast. If you thought she was livid before, she's whatever 10 degrees past that is right about now. 2 pretzels went to the mall. 1 was assaulted. But seriously, she threw French fries that were very hot at us, hit Crystal on the arm. Not only was she trespassed by Dave, meaning the cops saw how she was, and then when they talked to us, well, Dave, they asked if he wanted her trespassed, but she still refused to leave without a refund. Now that she was officially trespassed, she's now committing a crime by still being there, and she also threw food at a co-worker, which is practically an assault. Posted on behalf of my brother, who doesn't really do social media. My brother's company has asked their staff to return to the office for a minimum of 3 days a week. He understands. It makes sense for those in central departments, but he works in an offshore office with 3 other colleagues, none of whom do the same job. Think of it as boss brother, local admin support, local engineering, local marketing. Since they worked from home, they have talked on the phone fewer than 10 times and met in person no more than twice. They work in different departments and don't really need to talk to each other now that's everything online. The company is insistent that it's one rule for all, except for the senior manager who decided to move out of their head office into a different country. She exempt because she's moved, apparently. Anyway, the whole ordeal annoyed my brother, but being the good guy he is, he relented as long as his teammate got the return to office kit that everybody else got, namely headsets, an extra laptop charger, and a locker. Well, his company decided not to supply lockers. He quoted their one rule for all. Back to his senior manager, I was told no. Central London is expensive, so you must make do with your kit. The new downsized office is what you have. Take it or leave it. The US staff, following their senior manager's lead, realized that she'd bought a wireless headset because it was easier to transport on her flights back to the country she lived in. So they had all been given wireless headsets too. Again, he asked for wireless headsets but was told no. The rule is wired headsets. My brother is a very patient man. He has 2 younger sisters and we didn't make his childhood easy. So I get this part. He's also someone you never want to piss off because he's very happy to go full send to make a point. Whilst he's only got a team of 4 including himself, He is the most senior UK employee, totaling about 60 people. He agreed to wired headsets if he could request some appropriate periphery to go along with them. He waited until he got an approved email from his seniors until he put his plan into action. 60 wireless headsets were about £47 each and came with a case. 60 wired headsets were about £30 each. 60 headset cases were £10 each. 60 Apple Lightning to 3.5mm adapters were £8 each. The company phones are iPhones and don't have 3.5mm adapters. 60 large health and safety compliant backpacks were about £42 each. 60 spare 3.5mm cables were about £2 each. The company could have spent $2,820 on wireless headsets to keep their offshore staff happy. They ended up spending over double that, £5,520, and then complained that the wired headsets were too expensive. The newest UK hires are being issued with wireless headsets, and my brother is now looking to return all of the wired headsets and obtain wireless headsets for commonality and functional purposes. I don't think he'll follow through on that at the moment, but if he gets any more complaints, then I'm sure next time I see him for a drink, he will be wearing a wireless headset. This is my dad's story and involves my brother, who I will call John Smith for anonymity. One day an officer shows up and knocks on the door. My dad answers and the officer says, "Hello, is this the residence of John Smith?" My dad says, "Yes, it is." The officer asks my dad if he was home, to which my dad says, "No, he is not." Since my brother was still a youth, the officer asks my dad if he was a legal guardian of my brother, to which he says, "Yes, I am." The officer hands him a paper and it was a summons to appear in court for some charges against him and says John Smith needs to be in court on that date. My dad tries to hand the paper back and says, "It wasn't him. You had the wrong guy." To which the officer cuts him off and says, "No, I don't. And he needs to be in court that day." Again, my dad says, "John Smith did not do this and you have the wrong guy," and tries to hand back the paper again. What I need to add is my brother was a troubled youth who had countless run-ins with the law, so every cop in town knew him and had arrested him dozens of times, so this officer was quite happy to serve my brother one more time. He even knew exactly where my brother lived without even looking at the address on the paper. After my dad said the last time he had the wrong guy, the officer got nasty and said in a bad tone of voice, "No, I don't have the wrong guy." And he has to show up for court. If he doesn't, he will be in trouble. This pissed my dad off since the officer was being so rude. So my dad says to him, "Okay, so this is my piece of paper then, and I can do what I want with it, right?" And the officer said, "Yes, it is." So my dad ripped it into a bunch of pieces and threw it into the dirt. The officer then laughs and says, "It doesn't matter. He still needs to be in court." To which my dad begins to laugh loudly in his face. The officer, not understanding why, had a blank stare on his face. My dad then asks, "Hey, what was the address on your paperwork?" To which the officer starts looking at the copy of the paperwork he was still holding, and my dad watched as a confused look came over his face. "This isn't even the address you had on the paper, and I was trying to tell you that, but you were being so freaking rude and got me off every time. Now look at the full name. Do you notice anything? It says John Rip Smith, and my son's name is John Plitty Smith. Again, you have the wrong guy. Now take your piece of paper and get lost." The officer was choked. "You ripped my paperwork that was an official copy, blah blah blah." My dad again laughed at him. No. You said that was my paper. Now kindly take your garbage and get off my property." And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.